Wow. A lot of reflecting, isn't there, on a great man's life. Pastor Hamilton was a spiritual father to me, not only to me, but to my whole family. And I'm sure many of you have the same kind of stories. In fact, if we took a show of hands and asked the question, how many of you are Pastor Hamilton's children? I think a lot would be lifting their hands. I know I would. Because he was a great man to follow. A great man who influenced my life. And in the lives of my children, he was there. He dedicated them as babies. He did their weddings. He was involved in so many special family events. For Annette and me, he was such an integral part of our spiritual growth and our ministry. I remember it was only maybe 3 months after I had gone to Canby, Oregon to pastor the church out there, and I already messed it up. I mean, I ran into some problems. I didn't know how to get out of those problems, and the first person I called was Pastor Hamilton. And I just told him what kind of mess I got myself into. I went on and probably whined a little bit, and cried a little bit. In the end of my deliberation, there was just a silence, and he just broke out laughing. He was just laughing. And I'm thinking, why are you laughing at me? And what he said to me was this. He said, it won't be the last time this happens to you. And then he said, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. This is what spiritual fathers do. They give us perspective. Because you just don't know what you don't know. And to have a man like that in my life, speaking to me along the way. His perspective was really more than just good advice. Anyone who would sit with him would know that immediately. It was more than just good counsel. If you sat with Pastor Hamilton and he spoke to you, you knew you were being prophetically spoken to. That there was always a prophetic word. Dennis said it earlier, just those times have gone by. It's rare today that we see that kind of person, that kind of man as a statesman, as a prophet. And that's what he did. That's how he spoke to us. And when he spoke, you listened. Pastor Hamilton was amazing. He intersected our lives when we needed it the most. He was there for so many defining moments in my life. In fact, when we felt the call out to Canby, Oregon, he called me in his office one afternoon, and I just never thought that was a good place to be called into, I'd wondered if I was getting fired. I wondered, what was going on. I hadn't been there that many times, so this was like another world for me. And when he called me into his office, I thought, I'm done. It's over. I sat down on the other side of his desk. He looked at me. And he said, there's a chance, there's an opportunity you may have to go to Canby, Oregon, you and Annette. And I knew I wanted something that he had. I was too dumb to maybe articulate it all together, but there was something that he had that I really wanted. I wanted a blessed life. I wanted to bless others. And I saw it in him. And so I asked him, I said, are you blessing me and sending me? And he says, no, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. And so we talked some more. And I asked him again, I said, Pastor Hamilton, are you blessing me? Are you sending me? And he said, yes. I said, because I cannot go. I cannot leave this place without your blessing in my life. And he got up from his desk, he came around, he stood behind me. He put his hands on my shoulders, and he prayed a prayer of blessing. And it was in that moment, in that conversation, that he said, you're my son in the faith. Defining moment. He was there for many of our transforming moments. The words that he spoke, the counsel that he gave, the advice, just the look in his eye. I think it was even just within this last year, he showed up candy for a church service with Joan. And man, I want to be like him. I just want to keep going. I want to love Jesus. I was invited by this wonderful family just a few weeks ago to be there with them for the last moments of Alan's life. We got together in a little room and we told stories. We laughed, we cried, we talked. And then we got up and we went into Pastor Hamilton's hospital room and just stood there and said our goodbyes. I went over and I took his hand, I kissed him on the forehead, and he squeezed my hand. Now, I don't know if he meant to do that, but I choose to believe he did. And I told him how much I loved him. I told him how much he meant to me. And it was at that moment I realized something. I realized that all the moments I had had with him before, both to defining and transforming, had all of a sudden become sacred. That's how you know that you're in the presence of a spiritual father. He was a spiritual father.